And here we go, feeling poppy out of my skull. Whew. Only a few days of doing the hip flexes basically, and I'm at a point now that I feel like my hip is insulated. I feel like I can jump through it, and feels like it's really, really strong. So the hip flexor business, miraculous recovery, turnaround of how I felt a week ago. Now I'm feeling like poppy. Feeling strong, feeling like my glutes are on board, feeling like I can jump. The whole jumping feeling that I had, I went into the backyard, started hopping around, jumping around, and started thinking about that 31-day period that I had early in the year of hitting 200 kilos for 31 days in a row, and that was purely based upon me trying power training, me thinking along those lines, trying to jump. I don't know what it was back then, but now with the added information that I have right now, I feel like something jumping does. It does something, I'm not sure what it does, but it does something that is similar to what hip flexors do. Hip flexor training. I can't put my finger on it. I don't understand what it is. Maybe it's because it's a violent eccentric portion phase that requires you to jump. You can't jump slowly. Nobody can jump slowly. So maybe that portion of dipping before the jump did something to my hip flexors and made me feel really good back then, which led me to hit 31 days of hitting 200, which 200 it's a lot of weight for me. This is not something that it's like 60 or 70%, far from it. This is very, very close to my max. And for me to hit it 31 days in a row, it's quite remarkable. So there's something there. So I'm putting it into the same box as the hip flexor training, jumping. You know, at the time I was making a comparison. I watched the video. I was making the comparison of, jumping and pin squats being very alike, and me concluding that jumping was a superior movement purely because it's a lot less weight on the spine and it's just cheaper in general. You can recover better from it. So then I kind of put jumping ahead of pin squats, but at the time I was thinking pin squats are purely just like a peaking type thing. But now I'm realizing that maybe jumping has something to do with the hip flexors, and that's the whole thing. It's the power aspect of it, and jumping fast, it does something to wake up the central nervous system. But I think it does something to the hip flexors, and I think it's the dip portion before you jump. Now, me jumping, I feel like I'm a beached whale. I'm serious when I say that. It's funny as hell, but I feel so unathletic right now with all this added weight that I have, and I can't even recognize myself. Watching myself on camera jumping, like it looks like I'm such a heavy unit. And I know there's guys out there my height, my weight, that can jump and they can dunk and they can windmill, they can do all sorts of things. But I'm thinking to myself, what makes me feel like I'm lugging this weight around and I'm very heavy on my feet? And I'm just wondering, could this hip flexor weakness that I've kind of found, discovered and developed before I found out about it, maybe the hip flexor is so thin, so weak, that the glutes on the other side are simply overpowering it, and it's inhibiting, the hip flexors are inhibiting the glutes. And maybe that's why I feel so heavy. But as the session progressed and as I continued to jump more, I felt like I was getting a little bit better and more explosive and more stronger. I felt like I was more and more in my hips and my glutes were awake. I felt like I was waking up and I was feeling more and more poppy. And I feel like the 180, which I've got on the bar, started feeling better. These doubles started feeling better. So I did, I think, 3 sessions of 170, 10 doubles. Today I did 180 for 5 doubles. It's just it's an indicator that I'm feeling quite well. I'm feeling well and I'm feeling poppy and I'm feeling like I'm heading in the right direction. And these 180s felt good, felt stacked. I felt over my mid-foot. I felt like the weight was, I don't know, I just felt strong. So the hip flexor training, I kind of substituted that for the supersetting, and I left that for the end of the session. And I did 5 sets. I did 3 sets of 5 with a 20 kilo kettlebell, and I realized that I kind of got stronger. So then I started doing sets of 10. So I think the jumping, if I'm correct here, if jumping and the marching are both doing a similar thing for me, maybe this was the thought that I had at the start of the session. I'm pretty sure I'm confident with this now. Maybe I should put jumping for the supersetting in between squats, because it kind of mimics the whole squat pattern. It's an explosive movement. It's going to wake up my central nervous system. And I felt like it was easier for me to squat. Supersetting the jumping rather than supersetting the hip flexors. So I'm gonna mess around with that for the next few days. Have hip flexors in their own little portion at the end of the squatting. Do like 5 sets. I think I did 7 sets today. A bunch of them were 10s. So make it kind of more concise and really kind of attack the hip flexors on their own, and leave the squatting to be with jumping. Don't know. Maybe this is something to entertain. But it just goes to show, I'm so freaking happy, man. These marching exercises have led me in a week, essentially, to feel, like after a long time, to feel poppy, to feel strong, to feel like I'm in my glutes, in my quads. My pelvis is not protruding forward, like I'm not exhibiting a massive anterior pelvic tilt. I feel like that's improved a lot. Anyway, so I did all of that, and I started thinking about, okay, how could I load jumping? Once again, I went down that cascade of thinking a whole bunch of months ago when I was doing the 31-day streak. A whole bunch of you guys said cleans. So I'm currently messing around with cleans. I didn't record any of them, but I'm messing around with like cleans. The thing about cleans is that I don't like it is I'm so freaking unskilled with it. So there's that component. So I'm doing something, I think it's called the dip clean. I don't really know what the hell I'm doing, but I think it's called a dip clean. So I'm messing around with that, experimenting in my session here, doing that, just thinking about what other exercises I can do to progress jumping. Other than doing depth jumps or something like that, I don't know how else I can, progress it. So I'm kind of looking to the barbell now, thinking, how can I load the jump? How can I load it? I don't know. Maybe for the next session, I'll load up another barbell on the ground, and maybe I'll do some like cleans in between the squats. I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking out loud now. I don't really know, where to go with that. But I think I'm happy to have, now that I'm kind of out of the cave of pain, I think I'm happy to have, the marching on its own at the end, because that will kind of allow me to push it really hard. Whereas if I'm doing in between squats and I've got a whole lot of weight on the bar, I'm kind of like half scared to overdo it because then I'll suffer with the squats. Whereas jumping and cleans, it's not a strength type of exercise movement. It's not going to exhaust the muscles. It's going to kind of wake them up rather, if you know what I mean. So I really want to push the hip flexors hard, and so I'm kind of going to tuck them at the end and just kind of like use it as a finish off, as you guys see here. I don't know if I recorded the sets of 10 or not. But I'm up to set of 10 now. So that's kind of progressed clearly in the last week, which is probably the whole story here. Why I'm kind of feeling the way I'm feeling. Why I'm feeling so good. And I dare say if I continue to progress this, and maybe one day I'll get to 20 reps with the 20 kilos, maybe I'll feel even more poppier. So maybe that's the whole, the whole story here. But anyway, I'm really good right now. I'm really, really good now. I'm kind of tweaking, moving the exercises around in my training program, whether to put them at the start, at the end, all that sort of stuff. So I'm kind of on the right path here. I feel like I've got the right ingredients. I just have to mess around with them, trial and error, and kind of maximize all of the components of the dish, for the lack of a better word. Anyway, guys, appreciate you guys like always, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.